February 17th, 1986. Route 285, Pecos County, Texas. The digital clock on the dashboard of Rick Harmon's Peterbilt semi-truck read 2:14 a.m. when he made his final radio check-in. A 42-year-old veteran trucker with 17 years of experience hauling freight across the American Southwest, Harmon was 3 hours into his overnight haul from El Paso to San Antonio, carrying industrial equipment for a manufacturing plant. Dispatch, this is Unit 47. I'm about 20 miles south of Fort Stockton. Clear roads, making good time. Should hit the checkpoint by 4:30. The voice on the recording sounds calm, professional. A man who had made this drive dozens of times before. Copy that, Unit 47. Drive safe out there, responded the dispatcher. What neither Rick nor the dispatcher knew was that this would be the last normal communication anyone would have with him. 17 minutes later, at 2:31 a.m., Rick made one final, frantic radio call. The transmission was brief, distorted, and would become the centerpiece of one of the most baffling disappearances in Texas history. The empty semi-truck was found the next morning, engine still running, headlights on, driver's door open. Rick Harmon had vanished without a trace. His coffee was still warm in the cup holder. His wallet remained in the glove compartment. The truck showed no signs of collision or struggle. But there was something unusual about the scene that the first responders immediately noticed. In a 10-yard radius around the vehicle, every electronic device, from the responding officers' radios to their wristwatches, experienced unexplained interference. The truck's radio was locked on an empty channel, emitting nothing but static. 8 years would pass before anyone would hear Rick Harmon's final words, a discovery that would transform a missing person case into something far more disturbing. What happened on that desolate stretch of Texas highway? Was Rick Harmon the victim of a crime, or did he encounter something beyond conventional explanation? The evidence, when finally pieced together, points to a conclusion so extraordinary that federal investigators allegedly buried the findings. This is the story of the Harmon disappearance, a case that combines hard forensic evidence with phenomena that defies scientific explanation. The search for Rick Harmon began at dawn on February 17, 1986. Texas Highway Patrol Officer Marcus Delgado spotted the abandoned truck during his morning patrol. The vehicle's hazard lights were flashing, visible from nearly a mile away on the flat Texas landscape. I approached with caution, thinking it was a mechanical breakdown, Delgado would later testify. But as soon as I saw the open door and no driver, I knew something was wrong. In all my years patrolling these highways, I'd never seen anything like it. The initial investigation proceeded according to standard protocol. The Department of Public Safety established a perimeter around the truck. K-9 units were brought in to track Harmon's scent. Helicopters equipped with thermal imaging scanned the surrounding desert. The assumption was straightforward. The driver had either walked away from his vehicle or been forcibly removed. What puzzled investigators immediately was the lack of footprints. The fine desert sand should have preserved clear tracks, yet there were none leading away from the driver's side door. The only visible marks were Harmon's footprints around the front of the truck, suggesting he had stepped out to check something on the vehicle. It was as if he simply vanished from that spot, said Detective James Morgan of the Texas Rangers, who took over the case after the first 48 hours. We had a man of considerable size, 6'2", 220 pounds, disappear without leaving tracks more than 3 feet from his vehicle. That defies logical explanation. Linda Harmon, Rick's wife of 18 years, arrived at the scene by noon. Her recollection of that day remains vivid. They wouldn't let me near the truck at first. The officers kept looking up at the sky, then back at their equipment. Something was interfering with their radios. I could tell from their faces that this wasn't a typical missing person case. The investigation's first major hurdle came when officers attempted to review the truck's onboard logbook and communication systems. The electronic logbook, which should have recorded the truck's location and status updates every 15 minutes, contained corrupted data for the 2 hours preceding the disappearance. Similarly, the CB radio appeared to have malfunctioned, with its internal components showing signs of exposure to an intense electromagnetic pulse. By the third day of the investigation, the search radius had expanded to 15 miles around the abandoned truck. Over 200 volunteers from neighboring counties joined Texas Rangers and local law enforcement in combing the harsh desert terrain. The FBI dispatched a specialized team from their El Paso field office, an unusual step for what was still classified as a missing person case. Special Agent Catherine Weiss, who would later become the lead federal investigator, noted several anomalies in her initial report. Multiple witnesses reported unusual atmospheric conditions in Pecos County on the night of February 16, 17. Weather station data confirms an unexpected temperature drop of 17 degrees between 2:15 and 2:45 a.m., localized to an approximately 30-mile radius. Additionally, 3 separate motorists reported radio interference and vehicle electrical issues while traveling through the same stretch of highway between 1:00 and 3:00 a.m. The first potentially significant lead came from Jacob Martinez, a long-haul trucker who had been approximately 40 minutes behind Harmon on the same route. During questioning, Martinez revealed a detail that investigators initially dismissed. Around 2:20 a.m., I saw what looked like extremely bright aircraft lights hovering above the highway, maybe 5 miles ahead. I radioed about it because it was unusual. Too bright for a helicopter, too stationary for a plane. No one responded, which was strange for that channel. When I reached the area about 10 minutes later, there was nothing there. But my truck's electrical system went haywire for about 30 seconds. Headlights dimmed, dashboard flickered. I wrote it off as a power surge. Martinez's testimony was corroborated by an unexpected source. A seismic monitoring station at the University of Texas had recorded an unexplained ground disturbance in the vicinity at 2:29 a.m. A vibration pattern inconsistent with vehicular traffic, construction, or natural geological activity. Meanwhile, the investigation into Rick Harmon's background revealed nothing to suggest he would voluntarily disappear. His bank accounts showed healthy finances with no unusual withdrawals. His marriage was stable. His driving record was impeccable, with safety commendations from his employer. The psychological profile developed by the FBI characterized him as extraordinarily reliable, methodical, and without tendencies toward impulsivity or fantasy. As days turned into weeks, conventional explanations seemed increasingly inadequate. No ransom demands were made. No body was discovered despite one of the most extensive ground searches in Texas law enforcement history. Before we dive deeper into what the official investigation uncovered about Rick Harmon's disappearance, if you're finding this case as compelling as investigators did, make sure you subscribe to our channel. We uncover these types of meticulously documented, scientifically perplexing cases every week, and you won't want to miss our upcoming series on unexplained phenomena across America's highways. By April 1986, the active search for Rick Harmon had been officially suspended, though the case remained open. The truck was released from evidence and returned to the shipping company, which took it out of service and stored it at their San Antonio facility. Rick's personal effects were given to Linda, who refused to have her husband legally declared dead, insisting that the lack of a body meant there was still hope. The first significant breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Eleanor Reed, an atmospheric physicist from NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, had been reviewing weather anomaly data from February 1986 when she noticed the localized temperature drop in Pecos County. Her scientific curiosity piqued. She requested access to the case files through official channels. What caught my attention wasn't just the temperature change, but the accompanying electromagnetic disturbances, Dr. Reed explained in her subsequent report to federal investigators. The pattern matched documented effects of certain types of plasma phenomena that we've observed in upper atmosphere research. This wasn't lightning or conventional weather. Dr. Reed's analysis of soil samples taken from around the truck revealed another anomaly. Trace elements typically found in soil struck by lightning, despite no thunderstorm activity reported in the area. These elements included vitrified silica and unusual isotope ratios that she described as consistent with exposure to an intense localized energy field. The FBI, now taking a more direct interest in the case, dispatched Agent Daniel Cooper from their newly formed Scientific Analysis Unit. Agent Cooper's background included advanced physics and work on classified government projects related to emerging technologies. His involvement marked a turning point in the investigation. Cooper conducted extensive interviews with Linda Harmon, focusing on any unusual experiences Rick might have had in the weeks leading up to his disappearance. One conversation revealed a detail that hadn't seemed relevant to previous investigators. 3 weeks before he vanished, Rick called me from a rest stop in New Mexico, Linda recalled. He mentioned seeing strange lights in the sky that were following his route. He laughed it off, said it was probably military aircraft from White Sands. But he called me again the next night from Arizona. describing the same lights. He wasn't the type to make things up or exaggerate. Agent Cooper's investigation took an unexpected turn when he discovered that Rick Harmon wasn't the only trucker to disappear under unusual circumstances in the southwestern United States. Between 1982 and 1988, 7 long-haul drivers had vanished while traveling remote highways in Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. In each case, their vehicles were found intact, often with engines running. None of the drivers were ever located. "We're looking at a pattern that defies conventional criminal analysis," Cooper wrote in a classified memorandum obtained years later through FOIA requests. "These aren't random disappearances. The similarities suggest an organized operation with capabilities beyond standard criminal enterprises, or an unknown environmental factor unique to these locations." Cooper established a timeline correlation between the disappearances and documented UFO sightings in the same regions. His analysis revealed that in 6 of the 7 cases, including Harmon's, local astronomical observatories or air traffic control centers had logged unusual aerial phenomena within 48 hours of the disappearances. The McDonald Observatory, located 130 miles west of the Harmon disappearance site, provided records showing that on February 16, 1986, the night before Harmon vanished, their instruments detected an object moving at approximately 1,200 mmol at an altitude of 80,000 feet. The object abruptly decelerated and descended to 15,000 feet before disappearing from radar. The incident was logged, but dismissed as equipment malfunction. Concurrently, Cooper arranged for sophisticated analysis of the truck's electrical systems. Technicians from the FBI's Engineering Research Facility documented a pattern of damage to microelectronic components consistent with exposure to a powerful electromagnetic pulse, EMP. Particularly telling was the condition of the truck's radio system. The integrated circuits show characteristic burnout patterns that we typically associate with proximity to EMP weapons testing, noted senior engineer Robert Jacobs. What's bizarre is the selective nature of the damage. Some systems were completely fried while others right next to them remained functional. That's not how conventional EMP works. In October 1987, Cooper interviewed Dr. James Vernon, a physicist contracted with Sandia National Laboratories who specialized in plasma physics and advanced propulsion theory. Though Vernon could only speak in hypotheticals due to classification restrictions, his insights proved valuable. Theoretical propulsion systems utilizing gravitational manipulation would produce several observable effects, including localized temperature fluctuations, electromagnetic interference, and possibly gravitational lensing that could create visual distortions. If such technology exists, its operation in proximity to conventional vehicles could induce catastrophic electronic failures and potentially affect physical matter in unpredictable ways. The investigation took an unexpected turn in March 1989, when a geological survey team working 15 miles from where Harmon's truck was found discovered a peculiar ground anomaly. Using ground-penetrating radar to map subsurface water sources, they identified a perfectly circular depression, approximately 80 feet in diameter, with unusual density readings. Dr. Melissa Thornton, the geologist who first identified the anomaly, described it as completely inconsistent with natural formation processes in this region. The soil compression patterns suggest an enormous weight was applied very briefly and uniformly across the entire circle, thousands of pounds per square inch for perhaps seconds, then removed. There's nothing in geological science that explains this. The FBI secured the site and conducted extensive excavation. At a depth of 4 feet, they discovered a layer of soil that had undergone an unexplained transformation. Laboratory analysis revealed molecular changes consistent with exposure to extreme heat, yet there was no burn damage to the surrounding organic material. More bizarrely, metal particles in the soil showed signs of quantum decoherence, a phenomenon typically observable only under carefully controlled laboratory conditions involving superconductors. Whatever caused this altered the fundamental properties of matter in this specific location, stated Dr. E. Lawrence Phillips of the National Institute of Standards and Technology, who analyzed the samples. I cannot offer a conventional explanation that satisfies all the observed characteristics. During this same period, Agent Cooper interviewed retired Air Force Colonel Harold Wright, who had served at nearby Laughlin Air Force Base during the mid-1980s. Though initially hesitant, Wright eventually revealed that on the night of February 16, 1986, radar operators at Laughlin had tracked an unidentified aerial phenomenon that demonstrated impossible flight characteristics. The object appeared at 86,000 feet, descended to 20,000 feet in less than 5 seconds, a maneuver that would kill any human pilot, then maintained position for approximately 3 minutes near the location where the truck was later found. Wright stated in his classified testimony, "When interceptor aircraft were scrambled, the object accelerated to over Mach 3 and disappeared from radar. The incident was classified, and all personnel involved were debriefed under national security protocols." Wright's testimony was supported by radar data that Cooper managed to obtain through classified channels. The data confirmed the presence of an object performing aerial maneuvers that defied known aircraft capabilities in both the era and today. By late 1989, Cooper had assembled a compelling case file suggesting that Rick Harmon's disappearance involved interaction with an advanced aerial phenomenon that remained unidentified. His recommendations for further investigation were filed with FBI headquarters in December 1989. On January 15, 1990, Agent Cooper was unexpectedly reassigned to the FBI's field office in Anchorage, Alaska. The official reason given was staffing priorities, but internal communications later revealed it was a direct response to his pursuit of the Harmon case. The investigation was officially classified as inactive pending new evidence, and all materials were placed in secured storage. Linda Harmon, however, refused to let her husband's case fade into obscurity. In 1991, she founded the Southwest Truckers Safety Coalition, ostensibly an advocacy group for highway safety, but with a covert mission to gather information about similar disappearances and unusual phenomena reported by commercial drivers. Through this network, Linda collected dozens of accounts from truckers who had experienced unusual events while driving through the same corridor where Rick vanished. These reports included inexplicable equipment failures, missing time episodes, and sightings of unusual aerial phenomena. Most drivers requested anonymity, fearing professional repercussions or ridicule. One trucker, identified only as Dave in Linda's meticulously maintained records, provided a particularly detailed account from 1992. "I was hauling refrigerated goods from Dallas to El Paso. Around 2:30 a.m., about 30 miles east of Fort Stockton, my truck was suddenly illuminated by a blue-white light from above. The engine died. Radio went static. The light was so bright I couldn't look directly at it. It lasted maybe 45 seconds, then cut off. When it was gone, I discovered my watch had stopped and the truck's electronic systems were rebooting. According to the system clock, I'd lost approximately 17 minutes that I couldn't account for." Linda's persistence attracted attention from Dr. Raymond Fisher, a former NASA consultant who had become interested in documented cases of electromagnetic anomalies associated with unidentified aerial phenomena. Fisher began systematically analyzing the data Linda had collected, applying statistical methods to identify patterns. "What we found was a clear temporal and spatial correlation," Fisher explained in a paper published in a peer-reviewed scientific journal in 1993. "These events weren't random. They clustered along specific geographic corridors and demonstrated cyclical timing. Something was happening with remarkable consistency in these areas." Fisher's analysis identified a high probability zone for anomalous events that included the location where Rick Harmon disappeared. Using predictive modeling, he theorized that whatever phenomenon was responsible operated according to discoverable patterns. In late 1993, Fisher installed specialized monitoring equipment in 3 trucks whose routes regularly took them through the identified zone. These custom-built devices were designed to record electromagnetic fluctuations, gravitational anomalies, and full-spectrum light analysis, while being hardened against EMP effects. The data these monitors collected over the next 18 months provided the first scientifically rigorous documentation of the phenomena truckers had been reporting anecdotally for years. On multiple occasions, the equipment recorded powerful electromagnetic pulses accompanied by gravimetric anomalies and radiation spikes in the ultraviolet and gamma spectrum, all without any visible source or conventional explanation. The turning point came in March 1994, when Harmon Trucking sold its fleet and facilities after financial difficulties. The warehouse in San Antonio where Rick's truck had been stored was scheduled for clearance. A junior mechanic, Michael Torres, was assigned to evaluate the vehicle for potential resale. The truck had been sitting there for years, covered in dust, Torres recounted. When I started checking the systems, I noticed something odd about the radio. It looked like someone had tampered with it. The casing screws showed scratch marks, but the company records didn't show any repairs after it was impounded. Curious, Torres removed the radio unit completely. Behind it, wedged between the mounting bracket and the dashboard frame, he discovered a small cassette tape. It had no label, but appeared to have been deliberately hidden. Torres, who knew the story of Rick Harmon from company lore, immediately contacted Linda rather than his supervisors. Linda transferred the audio to a higher quality cassette and enlisted the help of Dr. Fisher and his technical team to analyze the recording. What they found was extraordinary. The tape contained approximately 3 minutes of audio that appeared to be from the truck's CB radio. After extensive authentication testing, including voice print analysis confirming it was Rick Harmon speaking, they were left with a recording of the trucker's final moments. A recording that had somehow been made and then hidden inside the radio itself, despite the radio having been examined multiple times during the initial investigation. The first portion matched the final routine check-in that dispatch had recorded. Dispatch, this is Unit 47. I'm about 20 miles south of Fort Stockton. Clear roads, making good time. Should hit the checkpoint by 4:30. Then came new material, the previously unheard final transmission from 2:31 a.m. Jesus Christ, what is that? The whole sky just lit up blue. Dispatch, do you copy? There's something hovering right over the highway, massive, no sound, it's static. My engine just died. Radio's barely working, it's directly overhead now. Circular, maybe 200 feet across. There's a light, increased static, pulling upward. The truck is actually lifting, I can feel it, this is impossible, I'm prolonged static, can't move. Something's unintelligible, help me. The recording ended with 17 seconds of what audio engineers identified as structured static. Not random noise, but a pattern containing embedded frequencies that didn't match any known form of radio interference or transmission technology. The discovery of the tape fundamentally transformed the investigation. Linda immediately contacted Agent Cooper, now returned from Alaska and working in the FBI's Dallas field office. After listening to the recording, Cooper officially reopened the case, this time bringing in Dr. Fisher and his team as scientific consultants. Intensive analysis of the tape yielded several critical findings. First, audio forensics confirmed that the recording was authentic, not a hoax or manipulation. The background noise contained infrasound frequencies, consistent with recordings made near documented plasma phenomena. Second, spectrographic analysis of the structured static revealed patterns that physicists described as potentially non-human in origin. Most significantly, the tape contained an additional 3 seconds of audio after Rick's final words, a sequence of tones that Dr. Fisher identified as a positional signal. When decoded using astronomical reference points, these tones appeared to represent celestial coordinates. These aren't random frequencies, Dr. Fisher explained in his confidential report. They form a mathematical sequence that corresponds to specific coordinates in space, using a universal reference system based on pulsars. It's effectively an address, pointing to a star system approximately 39 light-years from Earth. In December 1994, Cooper organized a comprehensive scientific investigation of the disappearance site, now armed with precise coordinates from the original police reports and advanced detection equipment. Ground-penetrating radar confirmed the presence of the circular depression previously discovered, but also revealed something new, a pattern of smaller, geometrically arranged anomalies surrounding the main formation, a pattern that exactly matched the arrangement of stars in the constellation identified in the audio coordinates. Soil samples collected from these precise locations contained isotopic anomalies that defied conventional explanation. The ratios of certain elements had been altered in ways that would require technology capable of manipulation at the nuclear level, technology that didn't exist in 1986 and remains theoretical even today. Dr. Eliza Morrison, a quantum physicist brought into the investigation, provided perhaps the most startling assessment. The molecular restructuring we're observing in these samples suggests interaction with a gravitational field that can be selectively focused and controlled. This represents technology at least a century beyond our current capabilities. We're looking at either a massive classified leap in human technology that has remained hidden for decades, or something genuinely non-terrestrial in origin. The implications were so extraordinary that in January 1995, representatives from multiple federal agencies convened a classified briefing on the Harmon case. Present were senior officials from the FBI, Department of Defense, NASA, and intelligence services. The transcript of this meeting remains heavily redacted, but declassified portions indicate serious concern at the highest levels of government. In March of 1995, exactly 9 years after Rick Harmon's disappearance, the investigation took its final unexpected turn. A routine patrol by the Texas Highway Department discovered an anomaly at the exact location where Harmon's truck had been found. A perfect circle of unusual plant growth, approximately 10 feet in diameter. Within this circle was Rick Harmon's worn leather wallet, the same wallet that had been cataloged as evidence and stored in an FBI evidence locker in El Paso since 1986. Forensic examination confirmed it was indeed the original wallet, complete with Rick's driver's license, credit cards, and family photos. There was one addition, a small metallic card, approximately the size of a business card, composed of an unknown alloy that resisted all attempts at analysis. The card bore no text or conventional markings, but when examined under specific wavelengths of light, revealed a pattern identical to the star coordinates found in the audio recording. The final report on the Harmon case, heavily redacted before limited release under FOIA requests, concluded, after exhaustive investigation, no conventional explanation adequately addresses all aspects of this case. The disappearance of Richard Harmon remains officially classified as unsolved, with certain aspects designated as matters of national security. Linda Harmon was permitted to listen to her husband's final recording, but was required to sign non-disclosure agreements regarding specific details. She continued her work with the Southwest Truckers Safety Coalition until her death in 2011, having never remarried and never giving up hope that the full truth would eventually come to light. The trucking route where Rick Harmon disappeared has since been rerouted and widened into a 4-lane highway. However, local residents and long-haul truckers continue to report unusual phenomena in the vicinity: unexplained lights, electronic malfunctions, and brief but severe localized weather anomalies. In 2015, an anonymous whistleblower, claiming to be a former intelligence analyst, released documents suggesting that Rick Harmon's case was one of several that prompted the creation of a classified multi-agency task force dedicated to investigating similar incidents. According to these unverified documents, the task force has documented over 300 cases nationwide that share key characteristics with the Harmon disappearance. In 2019, 3 amateur investigators exploring the area with specialized equipment recorded unusual radiation signatures that matched those found in the original soil samples. More disturbingly, their equipment captured a brief audio transmission on frequencies normally reserved for military communications, 17 seconds of what audio analysts described as identical in pattern and structure to the static at the end of Rick's recording. When one investigator published these findings online, the content was removed within hours, and the individuals reported being questioned by officials who refused to identify their agency affiliation. Perhaps most compelling was the testimony of former Air Force technician Samuel Rodriguez, who came forward in 2022 claiming he had worked on analyzing materials not of terrestrial origin at a classified facility in Nevada between 1987 and 1994. Among the items he described was a partially melted CB radio, recovered from a vehicle involved in a documented encounter. Rodriguez passed away under uncertain circumstances 3 weeks after his public statement, with the official cause listed as heart failure despite his history of excellent health. Thank you for staying with us through this extraordinary case. If you found this investigation compelling, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more meticulously researched, unexplained phenomena. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe Rick Harmon encountered something truly beyond conventional explanation? And what do you make of those star coordinates? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our upcoming episode on the mysterious disappearances in Glacier National Park that have been linked to unusual seismic activity.